as we are fast approaching the release of the actual season, with the normal and the heroic raid opening as well as Mythic 0 being available, we went through the single target simulations of each of the spec to have an idea, a generic idea about their single target power. Then we moved over to the AoE simulations to check out their consistent damage, their burst damage, even their dungeon slice result to try to mimic their performance in Mythic Plus. Then we moved over to the PI simulations just to see who was going to be the beneficiary of getting a PI in a raid. So at this point, the only one that's left to check out is the power difference from tier sets. We have compiled how much of a gain going from 0 pieces of the tier set to 2 pieces, and then from 2 pieces to 4 pieces, and then the final result of how much of a DPS gain it is to go from, from 0 to 4. Now, we do have some help even for the most inept of players. If you want to sim this yourself, let's pick any of the links of the results from these specs. In this case, for example, Marksmanship Hunter, you have Sentinel and Ranger, and then the 2 pieces and the 0 pieces of both. If you go back to this or pick one of the profiles in Simulation Craft and you pick the entire profile and you paste it back in Advanced, you will find at the bottom how you get to test the tier sets by simply putting 2 piece with the name of the build you're trying to simulate, Dark Ranger, and then 2 piece for Sentinel, and then the 0 piece as well, and you will get your result testing the specs you have put in your profile with and without the pieces of your tier sets being active. Now, this will mostly be a guild relevant type of effort, because as you can see, we have not even bothered to check the AoE DPS gain of tier sets because it's mostly irrelevant. What players often do this for is to be able to know how they should better distribute the tier set within the guild members, because what's important there is their performance in the raid, meaning their single target damage. If you have a 1% DPS increase in single target from your tier set and a 20% AoE DPS increase from your tier set, you will get your tier set for last in a guild, because your DPS increase that matters is a single target and yours is very low. So there is not much of a point to check out how much of a gain this would be in AoE, when what this is generally done for is to distribute it within a guild for raid bosses, so most likely for single target damage. Of course, it's also relevant to split the DPS gains from the 0 to 2 piece and then the 2 piece to 4 piece, because in some cases things might be misleading, right? For example, check out the massive DPS increase of a sub-rogue compared to an arms warrior. It's practically 3 times as big. Of course, if you're in a guild and you're trying to make your guild as a whole do more damage, you would want to give the 2 piece to the sub-rogue. But then, as you keep going, you notice that actually who gains more damage is the arms warrior, not the sub-rogue. So then you come to terms with the fact that it would be better to give the 2 piece first to the sub-rogue, but the one who should get to the 4 piece first would be the warrior, because the DPS gain is bigger. That's kind of the point of players being interested into checking the, the DPS results of the gains for the tier pieces. Now, as you can see, of course, by the color coding, we can make it even slightly more clear. With this, although this is upside down, we have the winners over here quite clearly. Unholy, Havoc, and Enhancement Shaman are the ones that get the biggest numbers. So we know that the biggest number wins, so they are the winner. Followed up by Feral Arms and Elemental. Middle of the pack, you have Shadow Priest, BM, Affliction, and Arcane Mage, and then you have a whole bunch of whatever type of results. To make this clear, actually, shortly after this will be launched, we will probably add an extra column for sorting based on the tier tokens. Of course, you have Omni tokens that you can distribute. You're also gonna get likely your free token from ahead of the curve. Nowadays, you also have the Catalyst that you can use to turn whichever piece you want into a tier piece. So, yes, being able to tell which class is paired with which other class for the tokens is not nearly as important, but it still might help to know within that tier token who has the massive advantage, right? Because if Unholy is paired with these specs, then it's easy. It's not even a question. Unholy gets everything. If Unholy is paired with these 2 specs, then it's a much more problematic thing for them. Or maybe you feel like you're doomed because you have this much of gain for your tier set and you will never get yours, but then you are paired with these specs. So it turns out you're actually the best within your tier token. So that's why I think it's going to help as well to add the tier token for sorting. As mentioned, of course, things can be misleading. As you see, the two pieces are not giving you that much power. You could be seeing, for example, a Demolock or even a Balanced Druid or even a Fire Mage matching the damage increase from these three specs. But then when you look at the 4-piece, of course, they go far above the 4-piece of these other specs, right? Now, we have talked a bit too much about the winners. Let's spend a minute to laugh about the losers. The losers in this case being Deathlock, Frost Mage, Survival Hunter, as well as Outlaw Rogue, getting very small numbers, very likely never seeing a tier set before pretty much all the others have gotten theirs. However, there is a light of hope. Because what we did, in case you have noticed already, is we started with the weak ones. We started with the hero talents that are not normally at the moment being taken or presumed to be taken once the raid begins for single target. You know, as you can see, we have Elemental as Stormbringer, which is generally used in AoE. You have Arms with their big gain was actually as Colossus, which is not their default to go spec for single target. Then you also have Arcane as Spellslinger. You have Beast Mastery as Pack Leader, Havoc as Fellscard in single target. You have Frost Decay as Rider in single target. So these are not the premier choices for your hero talents, at least when it comes to single target, right? That's because the premier talents are over here. This is where you have your default, more likely popular picks, like the Raid Breath build of Frost Decay, the Sun Fury build of Arcane, the Dark Ranger build of BM, Farseer for single target for Elemental, Stormbringer for enhancement, etc, etc. So, some of the things do remain the same. You do have still Unholy as well as Havoc and an even larger gain for enhancement. Although enhancement is way more volatile than the others. You know, at the moment there has been this rediscovered super weird build that picks a bunch of different talents that were not being taken before that supposedly gained them over 10% DPS, even after being nerfed just a few days ago. At the moment, they have a massive gain from their tier set. Below them, though, you do have some different entries, because in the other sets of hero talents, you had Elemental Shaman, Arms Warrior, and Feral Druid. When you change hero talents, Feral Druid goes even higher. It gets even better in their already better performing hero talent Druid of the Claw. But Elemental Shaman, as Farseer with the hero talent, doesn't do nearly as well. And also Arms Warrior falls completely off. Unfortunate, I know, but Colossus seems significantly lower at the moment than Slayer, which is the build you will likely go for, and it's not doing very well when you give them the full tier set. In reverse, the same can be said for Sub. Sub gains more with the hero talent they are not likely going to be playing, Trickster, at the moment, compared to the gain they had when it came to Deathstalker, although they are much more close to each other for subtlety than Arms is with Colossus and with Slayer. Once again, we can spend a second to laugh at the losers. We do have, again, Outlaw Rogue, as well as Assassination Rogue, as well as Survival Hunter, both of the warriors with the lowest results when it comes to single target DPS gains from their tier set. In some cases, it's quite amusing because, for example, we mentioned Outlaw and Assassination. At the moment, Outlaw is one of the better simming specs in single target, and Assassination has one of the better AoEs for Mythic Plus. So that shows you that their current power in their spec is powerful enough that they barely even need any damage increase from their tier set to be doing very well. And then, of course, it also shows you many other specs are much more reliant on the power of their tier set to become significantly better. Anyways, with this being said, these are all of the results between the two different types of hero talents, as well as the DPS gains for each of the tier set jumps you can get. We have left, as mentioned, behind the commands you have to use in The Sims if you want to actually test them yourself, the 2-piece set bonus and the no-piece set bonus of your tier set. Every single one of the results, as well as the specs being simmed, will be in the links for the comparisons. And of course, again, for the ones completely clueless about these things, you will be able to see the results as well as the talents being used straight from the links themselves as well. So with this, for today, we have now now finished our collection of spreadsheets for the upcoming season. We have gotten now the single target results, the AoE results, the power infusion results, and finally as well the results when it comes to the tier set gains. So this, amongst all the others, of course, will be linked down in this video, but of course will still remain together with the other links over on Discord, where we keep these kind of updates. Also, for everyone who wants early updates, this spreadsheet has been up for the Patreon supporters already, and now it's being released to all the plebs as well. So for today, with this one out of the way as well, we can now leave each other on this Thursday. Thanks, of course, as usual, for everyone who has been supporting by watching this video, as well as by liking and commenting down below, together with subscribing to the channel itself. Now, with these things out of the way, thank you guys again for watching. See you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, I think it's here. I think the cloudy times, the more chill climate, and the heat have now officially gone away.